Bad Life Podcast! You're listening to the Bad Life Podcast, your number one guide on how to run a profitable band. Here are your hosts, Pete Stannard and Adam West, the Wizard of Rock! Hello and welcome to the Band Life Podcast, episode number 1. I am Pete, your hostess with the mostest. Shall we say? I am your host, Pete Stannard, and I'm here with my beautifully bearded co-host, Adam West.
How's it going?
How are you today? My friend?
Very good actually. Yeah, a little exhausted today. I had a busy day yesterday, in the studio and practice all on the same day. Yeah, it was brutal. Very good.
Wow, okay. What were you doing in the studio?
I was recording the last track on our album called The Fallen, and yeah, we're up there at 10 o'clock till about 3:34. Yeah, it was good. It was a bit full on because obviously one track is all heavy on the F constantly, pretty much. Like there's some variation, but it's just one of those sort of like moshing tracks. And he's like, right, you done the one layer of guitar, let's do another one. I went, right, and now we'll use your VSTs on the computer, which are like just massive. They sound great. Yeah, another layer of them, then
Nice.
we'll do another layer, and by the end of it, my fucking arm and my thumb was killing us. Like, the fingers are like this, trying to hold on to there. I'll say it was a good idea in the beginning. Yeah, literally, but not anymore.
Literally, just some kind of crippled hand by the end of it. No, like that. Here we are, episode 1. I feel that we should probably tell our avid listeners, or our avid listener, as it might be, what this podcast is about, why we're here, why are we doing it, and who are we to tell these people what to do with their lives. For obvious reasons. So this is obviously a music-based podcast. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about the music industry. But I think what I'm really excited about this podcast is that we're on the ground as musicians. We're in bands and we're doing all of the stuff that bands do, and we've done it for a number of moons. Shall we say, in different iterations?
Yeah, pretty much a long time.
So we've got a little bit of experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we're doing in our bands, the ideas that we've got, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to implement those ideas into our bands, and then give our lovely, beautiful listeners the results of those ideas. So we're very much about on the ground learning as we go sort of thing. And hopefully it's not too much of a how not to guide on how to run a band. But that's what we're doing. And kind of we've got a big goal of having a profitable band by the end of it, and how we can move around in the music industry and circumnavigate the music industry.
Well, you do quite a bit of that through the Instagram and TikToks as well, don't you? Which is how I came on board.
I do
with this, yeah. So yeah, just I think for me anyway, I'm here purely just because you're going to make me a millionaire, and that's why I'm here.
We're gonna world domination from Adam West.
It's a selfish attitude to have, but I'm confident you'll get me there. That's not true, by the way.
Drag you kicking and screaming into the millionaire lifestyle that I already have.
It won't be easy. I understand this, okay? Satire, Huey. It won't be easy. but I'm willing to
not.
endure the pain.
It's not exactly. It'd be like dragging through glass and then coals, and at some point we'll get to nice heavy pillows, and all of your dreams will come true, Adam. I'm sure, as will our listeners. So this podcast is for musicians, but I think it's also for anyone that just enjoys music in general, because we are going to talk a lot about music and the music industry broadly as well.
Yep.
It's not just about how to be a profitable musician in the 21st century. And I think that's really important as well, is that lots of artists have a 20th century mindset, whereas they need to kind of bring themselves a bit more into the 21st century, especially around things like streaming and music and that sort of thing. But we'll get into that as we get into the podcast. I don't want to give too much away, to be brutally honest.
Well, I think just I look, if I like getting people to gravitate towards what it is we're doing. If I want to listen to a podcast, I want to be educated, and I want to be entertained. So as long as we give people an idea of what we're going to be talking about, and is there any benefit to what we're doing, or is it just two guys chatting away? So I mean, obviously Joe Rogan has obviously pushed the podcasting world to where everybody's doing it now and talking about a whole host of stuff. So it's really difficult these days to start a podcast where people really want to tune in to something. And unfortunately, as you've experienced, there is the 4 to 8 second generation of watching videos and doom scrolling. It's something that is quite frustrating for both of us when we're editing and trying to push our craft onto the general public. So for me anyway, I certainly would like to be able to engage people and bring them to a podcast where they want to be educated about what is going on with the music industry. I certainly do, which is why I jumped on board with you. So it's going to be an education tool as well as something that's a bit entertaining at the same time. So you can, I mean, we've already done like some podcast stuff, which will probably be in the unseen and unedited section, which is a lot of laughing and fun, which is what it's about, because you got to be entertained at the same time, right? It's not all like, oh, we're deadly serious musicians, and it's well, we don't talk about anything else, we're just two normal guys, right? And we lead normal lives, but at the same time we're quite frustrated about the way the industry is, how to navigate through it, around it and in it. And as I said to you previously, if you don't at least try and adapt to where the music is today, you'll get left behind. And
definitely,
it's a quote by Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost who said it, because he was asked about the albums that they'd done over the years, and I think there was I'm pretty sure he quoted it. It was either him or Tony Iommi, I think, where it was like, well, if you don't adapt to the era and the time that you're in, you'll get left behind. So it's very difficult, especially your band is in a niche of a particular genre of music, death metal, doom, or what have you. It's because it's like, how do you survive the generations if you're going to start now? You don't know how the music is going to go. You go from like, we got the 60s, 70s and 80s, and there's pop and there's glam. And, if you've got a band that's managed to navigate and survive and do successfully well all the way through that's quite an achievement, right? So, and it's
definitely,
and I think like Paradise Lost have managed it. They've gone from death doom to electric pop, and like the music still sounds good. It don't sound crap at all. And I think hopefully both of us can talk about that through the podcast, so at least people get an idea of like, okay, so this podcast could be informational, it could benefit me in navigating the music industry. How can my band do well, which is where yourself comes in, and there's just I'll just offer my good looks to the podcast. That's about it, really.
That's it. Well done, Pete. Nice try.
Yeah, you'll just listen to my inane waffling, like,
inane waffle. No, it's great, and you're right. You're very right, especially about kind of how technology always dominates the industry.
Yeah.
It always has. Going from like vinyl to CD or cassette, vinyl to cassette, and then cassette to CD, and then CD to streaming, and it's always been technology led, even right down to the instruments that we play, the way which we record and produce music, very much technologically driven. And so the way in which we're producing music is affected, and the way that music's consumed has been affected greatly, especially with digital now. It's a big, that disruption thing is much more prominent now than it was 20, 30 years ago, or certainly 50 years ago, something like that. So when we were going from like vinyl to cassette, you had a big decades worth of time there. Now you're going from MP3 to streaming, and it's not a huge amount of time in comparison. So I just hope that we don't come across as the old guys moaning that their gramophones aren't working properly.
Hey, what's wrong with the gramophone?
Nothing. No, it's all in mono. My gramophone doesn't work with this stereo vinyl. This CD doesn't work on my gramophone.
Oh, come on. Let's be honest, okay? The music world out there, all the musicians and fans and artists, I think we can all agree the CDs were just a complete waste of time. Like when they come out, I'm just, what was that? Oh, you're somebody saying no, they weren't. They're amazing. It's like, okay, like CDs, they won't scratch and they'll play music, and it's just like, oh, that's a good hook. I'll get CDs. One minor blemish and the thing skips. At least with vinyl, what's the right way to say it? Like vinyl doesn't skip; it jumps, and it jumps with artistic pleasure. So the CD is just annoying when it skips. Vinyl, when it crackles and jumps, you're like, it's like that AMSR, isn't it? It's like, oh god, I could listen to that all day.
When it doesn't move anymore.
Even just that cracking, you're like, here comes a skip. Oh. Yeah,
we know it. It's going to happen. It's the dust on the needle that's going around. You know it.
What's the fun part? You can brush it off. You can't do that with a laser disc, can you? Yeah. You're there going, blowing into it, and it's don't look at it. It'll blind you.
Off the fingerprints.
Oh, yeah. I think
vinyls don't work well in cars. I found though.
Well, there is that, unless screenshot guy with vinyl in car.
Right. In car, yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's...
this is the problem. Do you remember those Discmen when they first came out? You had to like balance it as you were walking along.
You had to buy all kinds of weird stuff to stop it skipping and jumping in the end. It was like, out you go, out the window.
Give me back my Walkman.
The cassette. I mean, I go on down here. You can't quite see it. It's a Philips cassette player, right? For those who think I'm lying, there you go, cassette. Okay, what's on there?
Nice.
Oh, it's my singing tape for my vocals. Yeah, TDK.
Nice.
I was using Maxell, the metal tapes. Oh, the sound. And see, here's the thing, right?
Nice.
So with the talking about obviously the digital medium. I mean, whichever way you look at it, I'm pretty sure. The stats say that obviously vinyl's taken over CD again, but for a lot of people, I think there was two mediums that worked quite well. You had cassette, and then there was the what was it? It was the CD Digi Walkman. What was it called?
The mini disc,
right? And people were like, yeah, there was one problem with that. You couldn't get enough on them. Like, yeah, that was an issue, right? But at least it was in a cassette. So if you played that in the car, it was encased and it wouldn't jump. And that's why cassettes were great as well, because not only was the audio fantastic, I mean, like really good. I mean, it kept all that warmth, ambience, and low, mid. It was great. And so I played an old track. I think it was Blackened, that I'd recorded from CD to cassette. I played that through the PA system, and I was just like, what is that like? And then I put the CD on. I'm like, oh, it's a bit naff, isn't it? So it kind of speaks for personal preference at the end of the day, I'm sure. But I really do think if you're going to analyze it, I mean, the interesting thing as well, that like for music mediums, for artists trying to get recordings done, the most expensive obviously is vinyl, but cassette now is that there's places and plants in the UK that manufacture the cassettes, and you can order them and put them on there and design it all. I'm like, wow, has 20 years really gone that quick since I was playing around with cassettes? Yes, it has. So it's been an interest. It has been,
not longer.
Yeah, it's probably a lot longer now.
It's how it comes around, though, isn't it? How these trends come around, like vinyl now. Especially vinyl heads, I always say, if you get as a music artist, if you can get a legion of vinyl head fans, then that's your. I call them golden goose fans when I'm talking to my clients. Shameless plug. Hold on.
Oh,
when I'm talking to my clients at Greenwave Productions.
Check out Greenwave Productions. There you go.
Shameless plug.
It wasn't on long enough. I didn't get to write it down.
Oh, did you not write it down?
Oh, no, the viewers didn't write it down. There you go.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
So, what I do with my clients is we talk. So, I'm going to do shameless plugs.
Yeah, shameless plugging.
So, we obviously we do strategy sessions because I want my clients to release their music properly. I don't want the work that I've done. This is a very selfish thing. I don't want the work that I've done to get lost into the ether of Spotify. And that's a whole episode in itself, I think. Spotify.
Oh, we'll be talking loads about all that, mate. Don't you worry. You'll have to tune in and listen to it. Endless amounts of episodes.
Endless amounts of how to navigate specifically Spotify in itself, which has a huge market share. But what I do with my clients is we sit down and we work out how to release music properly, not just kind of, I'm just going to release my song and put out a post on Instagram about it and hope that people will go and listen to it. And we'll even talk about things like music videos, which we've discussed before.
I was hoping you'd bring it up. I really was. I can't wait to talk about it. We might just tease people.
Oh, there are some. We might just tease people about.
Hey, here's another one.
They should go for it. Go for it. Tell me.
Oh, sorry, mate. I was just going to say we can have plug. So we could have a little banner there where it says music hate. I know hate's such a strong word. We don't really hate it, but we don't want to put a whole essay there. Like, but music hate or music distaste or something like that, right? Well, it's where we talk about
music
what winds
mistakes.
Music mistakes. Something that winds us up about music and artists and. Yeah, so obviously we're really two lovely guys, but at the same time, we want you to understand that a lot of what we say is obviously just humor, comical humor. We don't really
satire.
Yes. And so obviously, if we put something up like the one thing that winds us up about musicians, doesn't mean we can't stand you or dislike you. It's just like it's that whole. I don't know, is ethos the right word for when people put themselves into a niche of certain things, it's like, and it goes for everything, not just music, and the things that kind of wind us up, and it's all done with beautiful love, but we're just, things that really wind us up,
Yeah, which segues quite nicely into another section of this podcast that we want to do.
Go for it.
There's a thing that I do, especially on TikTok, is we do deep dives. I do deep dives into bands. I look at their music production. I look at their website. I look at their social media and stuff like that. And we give general advice on how they should navigate, what they can improve on. It's just kind of an outside look how a fan or a potential fan sees you and engages with you as an artist. So if any of our lovely listeners want us to do a deep dive into their music, if they're brave enough to do a deep dive into their music, which Adam is brave enough and he has had this. If you want to have a little taste of that, Adam's band, The Shallow Souls, they had a deep dive from yours truly. And it's, if you want to see the full episode, it's on YouTube, at Greenwave Productions YouTube channel. If you want to see the two-parter, you can see that on TikTok or on Instagram. So if you want to sit down, because it's quite a long, I think it's about 15 minutes, something like that. Yeah, that's how many mistakes Adam made.
But the best thing about it is, right, so some of us obviously think, yeah, I'm doing the right thing here, this will work, but you know, obviously Pete's been in the music industry and doing it probably a lot longer than I have. Has got a lot more knowledge and info on it, and what's interesting is that he'll pick up on certain things that don't work and things that do work and things that need improving on. So I mean, you know, not to blow my own trumpet, but you know, being in it just as long, so I know what works and what doesn't work, but I don't know it all. So what I did, I was like, okay, give me a deep dive. I'm interested to see if there's anything that I could improve on or do a little better, because we want everything to function at 100% as best as possible. So he did, and there was a few bits there, and I'm like, interesting. Yes, okay, that's some valid points. Okay, I'll give you that one. Damn. Don't win on me. But it's good.
How dare you?
Positive, constructive criticism, which is great. So yeah,
and it is. It's always positive and constructive. It's never like mean. It's never from a place of nasty. It's never like, oh, I hate this because I just hate it. It's always, this isn't going to work because of X, Y, Z. So I'm sure Adam has put everything has been implemented. Like the banner on Spotify, that's clearly gone.
The banner on Spotify. I've got a ton of stuff to do, like, and there's still some bits. Like, where do I start?
No, don't worry. I'm not exactly. There's a long list of stuff, and I always find this, and there's some stereotypical stuff as well. In case our lovely listeners haven't guessed, we are into, obviously, metal music. I suppose hard rock, metal music are generally my clients, but us personally, as individuals, we play metal music. Our bands are generally metal music. And so when we speak about music, it's obviously going to come from that point of view, but the educational stuff, I think, will be valid for any genre, to be brutally honest, any kind of music artist, because these are kind of fundamental stuff that can be put into their careers and their music in general. And a lot of it is kind of backroom stuff, the sort of stuff that a lot of artists just don't want to do. To be honest, they just kind of, I just don't want to, I can't be asked to do it. Well, so, and plus we've got to go on. No, carry on. Go on.
No, I was just going to interject there by saying, making reference to some of the TikTok and Instagram videos that you do. So if you're following Pete on TikTok or Instagram, then go over and do that, because a lot of his videos on strategically helping people navigate, in short, video consumption form, certain parts of the industry. So for me, there are, like you mentioned it in some of your videos, that some people in bands, some of the musicians in the bands have certain criteria. They're good at some things and not good at others. So put the workload onto those that are good at it. So you might have somebody in the band that's really good with tech. Give the tech stuff to him. Don't give him something he's not good at or she's not good at. And it's basically a lot of that. So, I mean, and obviously Pete talks about most of that on the TikTok and Instagram, so it's good. And what we're doing on the podcast is trying to talk about it a bit more in depth, you know, and that's part of the episodes.
Yeah, it's a bigger platform to do that mindset stuff. In particular, it's hard. I try to keep them as short as possible, and I try to keep it around 3 minutes, top whack. Which is actually really difficult to do when you're trying to explain how to release your music in a very strategic way. Trying to fit that into 3 minutes is really difficult. So it's really quite broad. So this podcast is going to be more granular, and I think it's going to be way more helpful for music artists, no matter what the genre, because I think the fundamentals and the principles and things like that, they're gonna be applicable to whatever music you're doing, whether you're in metal, rock, hip hop, classical might be different, but to be honest, but
who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Whatever genre you're in, I think this podcast will be relevant for you. Plus, the other side of it is that we're going to have a bit of a laugh. We're going to talk about music in general, but I think the music side of things is probably going to be a bit more metal and rock orientated, I presume, because that's the stuff that we listen to and that's the stuff we know. But that's not to say that there's not going to be parallels. So if we're talking about a band like, say, Metallica, for instance, their career there might be universal themes about their career that that an 80s hip hop artist have. So someone like maybe NWA or Cypress Hill or Ice-T or something like that, there might be parallel universal themes there that people can take away from and go, okay, well, that's how that worked for that artist. And maybe applying those sorts of strategies and those thought processes and those mindsets will be really helpful. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how these things pan out. So from an educational point of view, I think this is going to be great for everyone. From a discussional point of view, especially the music industry stuff, I think it's going to be really helpful as well. So, for example, I think the next episode we should do a bit of a hot topic at the moment, and we should talk about AI, music AI, and how that's going to impact on the industry. And I've kind of got an idea about a specific. It's a big one to talk about, and it's a very hot topic at the moment. Whether it's right or wrong or indifferent or just something that everyone has to live with, that sort of thing. But I think that's going to be episode 2.
Okay. So this is our
just to drop that little bomb on you there, Adam.
You tease. So this is basically introduction to the Band Life podcast. Then there's episode 1, and episode 2, just to tease you a little bit, is going to be AI in the music industry.
AI and how it's impacting on the music industry. But we're going to talk about a specific company, because I don't want to be broad. I don't want to be too broad with it, because I think if we're really broad, all we're going to do is come down on it and be like, oh, it's going to ruin everything.
No, that's fine, mate. I can't wait to tune in to that one myself.
Yeah, I can't wait to be there. Okay. But there are notes for you.
See, a man who plans ahead. See, this is why I like Pete. So, since this episode is talking about ourselves and what we're doing, what we're into, and basically an introduction to something that may very well interest some people, everybody. Then, so everyone on this platform listening to us. We are the metal gods. Yes, the metal god. On the next episode, we're going to be talking a bit like this, so it's very, very metal.
Very metal.
That's how we
scream every line.
Can you
scream everything.
Good evening and welcome to the Band Life podcast. Are you feeling metal today? Can you imagine that? An hour of talking like that. Oh, my God.
Oh God! I don't know how these singers
in character.
Do it.
Well, maybe I could give you an education lesson on that.
Go for it. Go on.
Yeah, not doing it now. That's another episode, Pete.
Well, not now. Okay,
no, yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, it's a death growling.
You say about being
the art of death growling.
You say about being in character. I always kind of think that these metal artists, like Marilyn Manson. Does Marilyn Manson dress like Marilyn Manson when he's doing the ironing or the hoovering? Could you imagine walking by his window and there he is, like quivering with the big thing on that thing in his
Yes.
mouth.
Yeah. Yes.
Just a bit.
Well,
it is.
it's a fascinating conversation, because I know Alice Cooper for a long time spent a lot of time in character, and this tends to be the problem when you go on stage. You present a persona, a character, a figurehead, a personality that sometimes stays with you even when you leave the stage. I mean, at the end of the day, you're there to entertain people, for the first and foremost. I mean, you go to a gig, you want to listen to music, of course. We'll also be talking about the annoying things with people in the crowd. That'll be on another episode. So, yeah, and you know what's coming with that one, don't
you? I wonder where you're going to go with that one, Adam.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. Stay tuned for that one. So, yeah, and I think, for the best part, people, they want to be entertained, and then they get a bit more engaged, and that tends to be a lot of hard work these days. But yeah, I know some of them, they do like to stay in character, and it's like, well, that's up to you. Like, I mean, it's really difficult to be doing the ironing in full leather gear, studs, looking like
full Marilyn Manson garb.
Well, yeah, all the chap from Ghost. Can you imagine parading around the house, walking in that every day?
Yeah, those guys from Gwar.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sure. I quite like my pajamas and my big slippers. See, I'm getting very close to the pipe. Well, you just got to have a bit of comfort while you work, and I'm pretty sure most of them don't. But who knows, eh? Maybe somebody will email the show and say, I do. Here's my daily routine.
Let us know in the comments whether maybe Marilyn Manson himself.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson.
Just let us know. He can let us know. What's his name? Brian. Brian can let us know.
I think
he's in full garb when he's sorting out his washing. Or maybe he probably has someone to do his washing for him, to be brutally honest.
No, I don't know. I'd like to do my own pants and socks.
Maybe he doesn't wear pants and stuff.
Oh, God. Who knows? So
that's another thing.
Yeah. It's okay. So a bit more about myself and your good self. I'm not going to talk about me too much. Really, I could. Shall I? Yeah, go on.
I could. No, I feel like you should.
No, well, we'll get to that. What I want to try and do, really, for just the avid listener or the newcomer or just general listener, is just give them some background a little bit. And obviously, I know I keep pointing to you about it, but the importance really is the educational tool and advice that you offer. And so all I was going to say was that obviously how did we meet would probably be a good one. And here's something quite interesting I've found with the social medias. I heard, and I was one saying this myself, there was periods for a couple of years ago where people were like, I'm on TikTok, and I'm like, TikTok, I just fucking can't be arsed at TikTok. Like, and I used to slag it off quite a lot, And it taught me a valuable lesson, because the reason why I slagged it off a lot, because for want of a better word, and the same with Instagram, that's if you were first on it, that's all you would get is tits and ass all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really why I'm on you. It's not.
Is it?
Come on, people, let's be brutally honest. Right. So, but no, that's true. It was true. When I was trying to push the music, I jump on there and, this might interest you. And it's just like endless videos of people in the gym, and you're like, oh, no. But the algorithms work in such a way, which I later discovered, in such that if you searched for something, and TikTok especially, is what I learned over the years, is that they can crack the algorithms for TikTok, and they work really, really well. So to the point where it finds something that you're interested in, and then it kind of regurgitates videos that might appeal to you. And that's usually just from one click video. And that's how I came across your good self, through TikTok. And then I learned that TikTok isn't as bad as it was, or what it'd been perceived as. And so I tried to get my mate on. He's like, "Oh, really? TikTok or Instagram?" Now he's on it because the type of content, because the content that he wants to view or look at, it regurgitates and targets stuff like it. So you no longer see the ass, bum, and tit and all the rest of it. Like, and I think that's great. So now the socials can work. And they've worked so well for me, especially when you use them correctly. Something we can discuss later on in podcast episodes, because I know you touch on it in what you do on your socials. And that's how I came across your good self. And I'm like, oh, well, this is good information. It's not very often you get it. I find a lot of videos from the Instagram and TikTok socials. They're, like you've said, a lot of it is like, come to me, I'm the expert, I know what I'm on about, I'm going to tell you. And you're like, and then you end up doing the 4-second doom scroll, the 2 hours later. It's really bad. But at least with your content, I gravitated towards it because I was like, this is informational. This guy seems to know what he's on about. I checked you out, and I'm like, okay, well, this is good. Well, it deserves at least, more than just a heart, like, follow, leave some comments at least, because I know myself it's hard work. I've done the podcasting before with other presenters, been in the music just as long as you, and I find that the biggest problem is engagement. So yeah, that's pretty much how I came across yourself, and I found that TikTok had some beneficial qualities, and I suppose it's how you use your tools and the platform at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean,
definitely.
Here we are doing a Band Life podcast in a short period of time, and I just think it's important for other people, musicians and artists, to think about what it is that can help them navigate the times that we live in. And this is why I think it's important that they'll check out the podcast and listen to the episodes, because they will help. And like, we're not getting paid for this, but we love our craft. Disclaimer: we love our craft. We love what we do.
Well, no.
I'm a social person. I like socially interacting, and I think it's important, because one of the biggest moans. So obviously, when I started off back in 2019, I wanted to, the long and short, I wanted to run some festivals. All right, I wanted to do a two-day festival, Friday and Saturday, and I wanted to put on.
So is that when the Shallow Souls started? Was that when you formed that band, or were you formed long before that?
Oh, long before. Well, I started it back in 2004 officially, and along the way, I was like, one of the frustrations I had as a musician really was that trying to go through venues and promoters to book gigs, because I work the worst days of the week, and they're solid fixed days, so they're not easy just to get off.
Right.
And I was like, right, okay, so it's really difficult to get the gigs, and there's a lot of bands I wanted to see that are on the circuit. So I was like, right, okay, I'll give this a go. I'll start up a page on Facebook, the Gothic Doomfest, which is still active. It's currently under a different name because of some other work I was doing. But I was like, right, okay, I'm going to put these bands on in the genre that I like, and I'll basically get front row seats to watch and listen to these bands and push, plug, and support them, like, because why wouldn't you? But the trend you tend to see today, as you've noticed, is a lot of it is like, well, I'll do it, but it's really about me. And it kind of infuriates me quite a bit. If any of us in the underground scene are going to progress, at least, it's like, you really got to do a lot more than pop a like for the heart, or a thumbs up on Facebook. It's about, I know some bands do it. They create a community on the platforms, and it's purely a group that you just go into and you build your community that way. And that's really great. And I've got to give band Pantheus a thumbs up for that. They have a group on Facebook, Pantheus Ramblings, and I like what he's done there. Because the thing is, like you've mentioned, some of your short videos, is that they like you to stay on them platforms, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh no, yeah. No, that's what that's what every social media platform wants. They don't want people to leave, and this is kind of one of the biggest problems that artists have is that you're directly in conflict with the platforms because you're always asking people to go somewhere else because the platforms don't put music out. So you want people to go and listen to your music, but the platforms don't want people to go and listen to your music. So whenever you say something along the lines of go listen to my music here, the platforms are going to suppress that because they want people to be advertised to. And it's one of the biggest issues, I think, that that any artist has when it comes to promoting their music on social media.
Yeah, so. And that's oddly enough, that was something I learned from you. I was like, okay, well, when you look at it logically, it makes a lot of sense. But on the forefront, you think, oh, you're doing a good thing. We're all supporting each other. It's like, no, these platforms, they want it to stay on their platform. And I think with regards to the creating like groups and communities on these platforms, I think that works because it's like, oh, there's people engaging on our platform. That's great. They're not going elsewhere. So that's something that, you know, I'm sure we'll discuss in later episodes about keeping people.
Will. Do you want a cheeky tip? Should we give our listeners a cheeky tip about social media?
You're giving away free stuff.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, go on.
I'm giving away a free tip. Okay, free tip. If you've got something to advertise, don't tell anyone that you're doing it. What you do is you put a post out saying, we've got music coming out, but don't say, go and listen to it on Spotify, right? Don't do that. What you do is then you message all of your network of people separately, like say text message or whatever, literally asking them to comment, well, where can we go and listen to your music? And then, so the comments then become your friend. So what you're doing is you're generating engagement because people are commenting.
It's clever.
And you're also putting out the fact that you can go listen to our music on Spotify or wherever you consume your music. So you're not telling the algorithm that people are going away, and you're creating engagement. So that should then push, the algorithm should push the algorithms, this is our other thing, the algorithms will push your post more because you're not telling people to go elsewhere within the actual post itself, within the content itself, and within the actual captions. So if you're putting things in the captions saying, you know, if you're linking out in your captions especially, that's going to get suppressed in particular. So try not to put links into your comments, into the actual captions itself. Even the link in bio stuff can be problematic. They will suppress from that point of view. So that's my cheeky tip, is don't tell anyone that you're releasing music. Not directly anyway. Try to put it in the comments.
It's a bit like what we used to do back in the day. Something I never really did because I hadn't produced any music back then. But I know a lot of people during the 80s were just handing out cassettes of like, hey, check this band out. It's how we all got into, like, it's how I got into Metallica. A guy come to me and he gave me this cassette in the car. And like, he wasn't the type of guy you would have thought would listen to this music at all. Like, you know, you looked at him, you'd have gone R&B for sure. Like, you know, and I was a flash car, and he was just like, have a listen to this band here, Change Your Life. I was like, okay. And it was just like a cassette with like written on there, Metallica. I was like, okay, pop that on. It was the Black Album. And I was just like, and it did change my life. It was insane. And then I met some in college, and they had the black T-shirt on with them all on there like this, and I'm like, oh, I'm listening. That's great. And he was just sonically so well produced. And that's something that you talk about in later episodes as well, is the production and quality and stuff like that, which is great.
Yeah, so because if you're producing music, you have to have that production quality. Because if you're releasing music, you have to have the production quality because you're standing next to these people.
Yeah.
Pre-production in particular, that's how we've really sort of drilled down with my clients. So shameless plug with my clients.
Peach clients.
We do huge amounts of pre-production, and we sort their sound out. We get everything, all the ducks in a row, and then we shoot those ducks. Not quite literally, but we shoot them.
No, it's not real. Just to make sure, it's not real.
It's not real. We're not actually going out killing ducks.
No,
Sorry.
we love ducks.
We do. We love ducks. They're beautiful birds.
We have metal ducks here.
Metal ducks.
I will show you my duck later.
Oh.
Yes, I
Is that
said
a euphemism?
Anyway, back to what I was talking
Anyway.
about. Right? So we don't get go off on a tangent, right? So yes, and there's more of that to follow in later podcasts. Okay, just so
definitely, yeah.
But yeah, so I started these little mini indoor festivals with the aim to trying to get outside, and we were very, very close, but it's hard work, and we'll discuss that in later episodes. But I just wanted to touch on what I was doing. So I started these little mini indoor festivals called the Gothic Doom Fest, and put on a bunch of bands, met some very nice people along the way. I've recently called it a day to focus on my own album, which hopefully will be completed in June. And then because it's really difficult if you don't set out a plan and idea, which Pete discusses in grave detail through the strategy courses. Yeah, it's really useful information in trying to organize and plan and map out what it is that you're doing. Because if you don't do it, I mean, if you can keep a mental lot, that's great, but it's really cool to keep like Google Docs information, bullet points to keep you on track with what you're doing. Because as much as most people think that you can just do this in a split second and run it all at home, which you can, you really need to start delegating, which you talk about, and getting other people involved, so it reduces the workload, because it's no longer like it used to be anymore, the music industry. You can no longer just go around passing out other CDs of bands. But it's just a thing people don't seem to do anymore. There's copyright issues and all that nonsense, and now it's digital. The whole minefield of things that we will be discussing on future episodes, and it's changed a lot. So we're trying to navigate that, deal with now and what's going on. And so what I was learning along the way doing the festivals was that not only is this insanely difficult, especially when you're trying to target audiences, is that there's just a minefield of stuff. It was great that I got the bands on, we put them on. Our basic aim was, there was two things, right? Through the years, I've recorded every gig that I've done, pretty much, bar two. So I've got footage with like cassette camcorders, the whole lot. So I've got a plethora of video footage that my dad, good old dad, has he's been in the middle of the mosh pit filming us doing live gigs, and yeah, insane. And like, we recorded everything. Yeah. He's a star, like fair play. He got bashed around quite a bit. But what it did for us was, so there was two things that we were trying to do. We wanted to give people what they want. We wanted bands to walk away with a video of the gig, right? Because at the time, right, and a good audio. We didn't achieve the good audio, unfortunately, because we didn't have enough people on board to help with the desk mixing at the time. Additional cost, we had to pay for our time for the sound guy and the hire of the venue that we were situated in, and it's just added cost. And the trouble is, people are broke, they don't have any money, they'll spend 30-50 quid on booze, but they won't buy band merch, which is a really frustrating thing for me. I'll talk about that in another episode, obviously, but it's what these things do make a big difference. And so none of it works effectively if you don't have the whole thing working as it could. So if you've got a weak link, it just breaks down. And one of the problems I found was that, we gave them a great video, we just couldn't quite get the audio there because we didn't have enough people on board. But we almost achieved what we set out to do. We give them a good night. We looked after them. We even got band T-shirts done for them. Put them on a T-shirt. But it's really the hardest part is maintaining that. And people, when I say people, I mean we. Obviously, we tend to be a little selfish in our goals and our aims. We want to go to a venue. We want to play a gig. We want everybody to look at us and feel. Adulate is the right word. You feel just like, this is all about me, and then go home and forget these support bands, and I've done my bit, I'm off. And sadly, that is a trend that you get quite a lot. I've found by putting on the festivals that you get that, and I'm like, where's the two bands that we had on to start with? They'd already gone home. And I'm like, well, that's the other thing. We were paying.
Massive problem. Yeah,
it is a massive problem, and we were also paying bands as well. So we tried to push, and use the socials to engage, to get people on board. It's like, look, the money. It's like, yeah, you got paid again. It's like, well, yeah, if we're charging a £5 on the door and we got 5 bands, that's £1 each for that band. So if you've got 100 people, do the math on that. It's great. You're contributing to to the bands, the people that you want to see. So support them, right? And that was a big problem we had as well. But we did make some money, and we did pay the bands, those that wanted to get paid. A lot of them were very, very humble, and it's worth noting this as well. What I have found with the metal community is that they are very, very humble and very, very nice people. And a lot of time they're like, don't worry about it, it's fine. We just wanted to play. And that's all they want. We just want to play to a decent crowd. And we try to fulfill all those things, because it is really important, and there's nothing selfish in it. It's nothing better than having a massive audience in front of you. And we'll talk about how that's changed and what people, venues and promoters are doing right now in another episode, because that tends to be quite frustrating. So anyway, that's a little
to be a thing.
Yeah, that's a little brief about me and what I was doing. Yeah, and obviously, I got my own band, just like Pete has, and we've been riffing away at it, trying to do our thing and practice our craft as well. So we don't just sit here and talk inane drivel. We are busy behind the scenes, providing for families and trying to keep things up and running. So, yeah, and one of the key things, just before I give the mic to you, because I know I've rambled on a bit. This is why we're together, is just to try and help each other out and other people, to try and get a bit more out of what we're doing. Right, I'm done. I'm finished talking. You're too.
Done.
Westo, go to the corner.
Bye. So if I'm going to ramble as long as you, I need to start from the very beginning. I was born on a very rainy day. No.
Was it raining?
No. Well, I was born in June, so I don't know.
So
I was barely there.
You got to be born in the winter, mate, to be proper metal. I was born in November. I'm a winter metal.
A winter. All of my children are born in the winter. So
and you're a summer
I don't know what
baby.
that says about our fertility.
I don't know. They will surpass you, mate, in metal greatness. In metal and rock greatness. Yeah.
We were obviously bored in summer.
So come on in. Tell the world a little bit about yourself and not your bedroom.
About myself?
Yeah.
No, my bedroom. You don't want to hear about my bedroom.
No, we don't. We don't. This is a podcast for families.
For families. Family based. It's how to make families.
How to make metal family communities. There you go. Okay,
exactly.
Go on in. You got the floor, sir. I'll shut up.
I've got the floor. So who am I? I'm Pete. I work as a music producer. I produce all day, every day, metal and hard rock music.
Yeah, you don't stop, do you?
I don't stop, no. I'm constantly producing music every day. Every single day. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. So I run a company called Greenwave Productions. I don't even call our studio a recording studio. We are a music production studio, because we cover everything from pre-production, recording, mixing and mastering, and release. And all of our pre-production and release strategy stuff, we do that completely for free, because we are giving back. And I say we, I mean me. To be pretty honest.
It's all about you.
So it's all about me and nobody else. So, but obviously we need to keep the lights on and all that sort of stuff. So we charge for music production, but that's it. But it also comes from a place of selfishness, because I want my work to be heard. So my success rests on the success of my clients. And it's a weird kind of paradox from that perspective, is that I could do really good work and then that music could go out and it could just go nowhere. It could be the best band in the world. We could write the next Sgt. Pepper's, but if it's not marketed and released properly, nobody's going to hear it and nobody cares. And I think this is one of the things that artists need to get their heads around, is that nobody cares about your music as much as you do. And that's it. That's one of those things. So that's where I've come from with Greenwave Productions. Very much a case of, we're going to record and produce great music, but we're also going to help you release that music. So that's kind of the mission of Greenwave Productions. Me, myself, I've been working in the music industry now for longer than I care to
Come on, be honest. Tell everybody.
20, probably the best part of 25 years now.
Yeah, good man.
I started as a session musician, and for the last 10 years or so, I've been producing music. Now, what a lot of people say is, well, you must have worked with some really famous people. And I always, no, I haven't. I've worked with some fame. I've worked with the BBC. I've worked with production companies. I've worked with record labels and things like that. But anyone particularly, have I worked with Taylor Swift? No. And I think my point for saying things like that is that a lot of artists seem to think that if they're not the next Taylor Swift, then there's no career to be had. And the reality is, you can actually have a really good career and not be, Taylor Swift, if that makes sense. I always liken it to, well, yeah, there's the Premiership, but there are other leagues, and there are professionals within those leagues that are still making money and still providing for their families. They're paying the mortgage, they're putting a roof over their head and clothes on their back and all that sort of stuff. So that's one of the reasons about me, and about why I wanted to do this podcast in particular, was because, I mean, going back to the whole TikTok thing, I was quite an early adopter of TikTok. I got into TikTok where there was still the teenagers dancing around doing that. But because I heard that this is going to be a future thing, a future technology, and I know the music industry is very much about technology, and especially the promotion of music. So I thought, okay, I'll sign up to an account, and I'll just have a little look and see what's going on. And I was scrolling through, and obviously there was a lot of the dancing and all that sort of stuff. But then Metallica popped up, and then the Beatles popped up, and the Foo Fighters popped up. These big name legacy acts popped up. I was like, okay, this, at some point, that's going to filter down, and I need to get on top of this and try to work out what I'm doing with it and how to find it. What is my place within this app, within this structure? So I went with the educational side of things, of how do we release stuff? And rather, because what I could have done is just done what every other producer or engineer is doing. It's like how to EQ a guitar, and all this sort of stuff. But there's tons of that on YouTube. But what I found was the educational stuff was really generic. It was just like the sort of stuff that you could Google and just sort of spout off about. And that's one of the fundamental things that I think this podcast is going to be really good for, is that it's not going to be generic information. It's going to be tried and tested, because the stuff that we're doing is going to be put into our own bands. The stuff that we're talking about is our own bands. So, and our viewpoints on our own bands are slightly different, because Adam, you're very much kind of a DIYer aspect with the Shallow Souls. You're very much, I'm doing it all. I'm very much in control. Whereas with my band Crucitrix, we're very much, let's get as many people collaborating around this. Let's build a team up and have as many people doing that as possible. So for example, we have a social media guy that does all of our social media, and we're currently sort of in the testing phase of that, and it's actually been a really good. I was actually on our Instagram this morning, and we've got like 389 followers, and we've only put out 6 posts.
Wow.
So, and we're really inconsistent with it. So, just going through that process of testing and things like that, and kind of the fundamentals of what our audience want and what they're looking for, that becomes a much more of a focal point for your social media in particular, and sort of generating followers as such. And something I always say, your followers are not your fans. Okay. Don't like get misconstrued by that. It's nice to have lots of followers, but they're not necessarily there for your music. They might just be there for your content. But that again is a whole other episode.
Yeah, which I'm really looking forward to getting into, because it's really important.
Yeah, and it's an important mindset to have. It's nice to have lots of followers, but it doesn't necessarily transcend into fans. But I think the main point here is to kind of look at your social media from that lens of giving. And most artists come at it from a lens of, what can my audience do for me? Go listen to my music, watch my music video, go buy my merchandise, and that sort of thing. And that's not how it should be approached. It should be approached far more from a point of view of, how can I entertain you? How can I engage with you? How can I build a community around what I'm doing and have you engaged within that community? Things like that.
Yeah.
So that's where I came from with the educational stuff that I do on TikTok. Is my main focus. I try to be a bit more focused on Instagram, but I struggle having the bandwidth. So that's why I came from that point of view with the band stuff, and this podcast in particular. I wanted us to actually put our ideas, tell the listeners or the YouTube's people, if you're watching on YouTube, what the ideas that we've got around our bands, and then we can tell them the implementation of what those ideas are, and then later on we can give them the results of those ideas. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. It's one of those things. But you never know until you try. And a lot of this stuff is testing, test everything that you do, and then you analyze what you're doing and reflect on that, and you pick out what's not working and you double down on what is. And sometimes it's a small element that is working that people don't double down on. They see it. If it's like an 80% failure, they're like, oh, it's gone. It doesn't work. Whereas instead of going, actually, you've got 20% there that did work. So how can you improve on that 20%? So that's kind of how this is going to function. Hopefully, when we come to that analysis at the end of what we're doing, we can say, well, this didn't work out so well, but if we did this, and this, then we would have better outcomes, if that makes sense. So you can kind of learn from mistakes, and you can kind of move things on. But sort of coming back to me, show you how much I hate talking about myself. So I'm completely distracted from me.
I've been at this. Before you do, I think it's also important to interject that for people might say that, but in terms of the listener or the watcher, if they're going to take advice from anybody, it is really important that this particular episode in general is just an introduction to who we are. Can these people actually help? Are they well adversed in their craft of what they're doing, or are they just another expert that thinks they know? And that's not the case. I think we got some valid experience that will benefit people, and that's kind of why we do it. So, crack on, Pete.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. We've been at this we're in the trenches on the ground 24/7, and okay, we may not have got things particularly right in the past, and we may not get things 100% correct in the future, but time will tell that. And I'm more than happy to say we tried this, it didn't work, don't do it. Yeah, but I think it's more than likely is going to be a case of we tried this, it was okay, but if you did XYZ, then you can improve on that outcome. And it might be a case of we'll then implement XYZ in later episodes, and we go, okay, it really didn't work, or it's vastly improved, that sort of thing. So the advice that we're going to give from an educational point of view is very much on the ground, what's happening right now, and the ideas that we've got are going to be very relevant to today. Because I find that a lot of advice online, it's like, oh, how to get 1,000 fans. I've got 1,000 fans doing it this way in 2000. It's like, well, that's 20 odd years ago. Do you know what I mean? So everything's changed, especially when it comes to social media and stuff. It's like how to get 1,000 followers on social media. If you're seeing something that's even 6 months old, it's going to be irrelevant because the algorithms have changed. It's the same with Spotify. Any advice prior to January of this year about Spotify is completely irrelevant because the algorithms changed. The whole model of Spotify, for example, has changed. The royalty system's changed. The way in which the minimum amount of time for a song has changed. The Discover stuff's all changed. The whole platform has changed, and it's going to change again because, as a little thing, Spotify Clips is going to be coming into it to try and offset TikTok music. So they're going to try and get into short form video. So while TikTok is going after YouTube, Spotify is going after TikTok because they're becoming very much, and TikTok in particular, becoming very, where they've launched TikTok music in Australia, they've outstripped Spotify now.
So I didn't know that. And
it's something that is really kind of something to keep an eye on, being an early adopter. And I think it goes global in June.
Interesting.
Just as a little hint for you there, if you've got your music coming out in June.
Battle of the music and the socials, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be one of those things. And I think the two are going to become quite integrated at some point. You're not going to know the difference between how you're consuming music and how you're consuming social media at some point.
Well, that's where we come in. We'll help navigate through that. And that's why you should follow and like us right now. Off you go. Do it.
Yeah,
there you go.
Do it.
That's it. Yeah.
Subscribe.
There it is. The famous subscribe and like. Yeah.
Yes.
We know
to the Band Life podcast.
That's right. There it is. Look, if you're listening to this, then you need obviously if you're listening on Spotify then you need to tune in to a YouTube channel or whatever it is we're going to be putting this and have a look at what is on the screen. But yeah, I suppose that's why we're doing what we're doing, is because there's not a lot of people doing it, and a lot of us are flying blind. So it's why I gravitated towards Pete, because I think he's got a good angle on what is going on currently. And if we are to survive and practice our craft, we do need a bit of help navigating the minefield that is ahead of us. And hopefully we can help other people. We want to try and build a community, and we want to try and build a bit of a, not really fan base, it's a community more than anything. And I know a lot of people talk about this, your tribe and your community. And it is vitally important, because there are a lot of big corporate entities that say they're helping and supporting you. As Peter's just mentioned there, and in some of his short videos, is that behind the scenes doesn't work out that way sometimes, and it's really difficult because they take in more than they give in, and it's frustrating. I know a lot of people are seeing it in a lot of other sectors in the world, without mentioning names, dropping truth bombs and stuff like that. But we know
for
it's
legal
happening.
reasons, we will not mention their names.
Yeah, exactly right. But we all know, as
So-
artists and musicians, it's happening, okay? It's not a conspiracy. Let's get that out of the way. It is a real thing, and we need to work with it, adapt to it, and try and. Because the bottom line is, if we're here doing what we're doing right now, it's for a reason, right? And that's the main goal of the Band Life podcast. Is we're trying to, like, we're in that position, and we find it extremely frustrating and difficult. Since we do have a bit of knowledge, I won't say expertise, but we have some knowledge about what it is that we're talking about. So we really do want to help other people, the youngsters that are getting into this. Hey, and that's not to say that the youngsters of today in the music, what they're doing today with the socials and the platforms is just like, what? It's like giving
They're
somebody.
so savvy, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, they're just like, it's easy. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, not for our generation. We've got to work harder and think harder to try and navigate this, because we've been so used to. It's like giving some, like, I know people that are still stuck in sort of like late 70s, 80s tech, speak, environment. We're still wearing the clothes they were in the 80s, and I'm like, well, that's cool.
Still
That's
in the
cool.
shell suit.
Oh no. But in terms of the rockers and the metal, in terms of the rockers and metalers, like you go to the pub and you see them, and you're like, you're still, they're stuck in that sort of that bit of history, and it's great, man. It's great. I love it. I don't wish, but it'd be nice to go back to that time for again. But it doesn't mean that you can bring that time with you into today. It's just sometimes what happened then doesn't necessarily work with what's happening today, and that's where we come in. That's what we're going to try and do, is help you get through it, because it is important, because we're there, we're doing it, and it is difficult at times, and what did work, like Peter said, doesn't work anymore. Algorithms change, there's new ways of getting your music out there, and he's right, there's not a lot of people doing this, and I think it's going to be a good educational tool.
This romance about sort of the old school stuff, but the opportunities that musicians have now, or artists have now, to get away, especially from like major labels and things like that, is so much more prominent now. And I think this is the advantage of the area that we're in at the moment, is that you can be a lot more independent, and you don't have to necessarily rely on the record labels to get your music out there, to sell your merchandise, and distribution in traditional sense, it's gone. The old school, we have to package everything up and put them on a lorry and get them into the shops. That doesn't happen anymore. So essentially what we're doing now is that we are running our own little labels, and as a band, and you have to kind of have that mindset, business mindset. And I talk about this quite a lot in my content, is you got to have a creative side, and you got to have this little business side, no matter what you do.
Yep.
If you want to be completely independent, you've got to have this business side. But it's the same if you want representation, because a record label, certainly the record labels that I've worked with, their criteria is you have to have X, Y, Z. You have to have 5 figures on your Spotify monthly listeners. You have to be selling merchandise. You have to have an email list. So you kind of, the mindset that I would have if you want representation is, you're a small business and you've got this bigger business that wants to invest in your small business. If you don't like what that investor wants to do, send them away. It's as simple as that. So it's almost like a Dragon's Den-esque sort of thing going on now.
It's a big minefield.
It is a massive minefield, and there's no particularly wrong way of doing things. It's about playing to your strengths as an individual, and finding people that are strong enough to kind of plug the gaps in where your knowledge and your skill sets are, because you can't be good at everything. this is why with my band, with Crucitrix, we're coming at it from more of a perspective of collaboration, because I kind of look at it as that myself and the lead singer Harley, we're kind of like the COOs of the band, and we need to find the people that can do the stuff that we can't do. We can do the social media stuff, but I don't have the time or the bandwidth for it. And it's the same with my lead singer. She's very much she's like an influencer herself. She's got like 44,000 followers on TikTok. So she knows how to do the social media thing, but she doesn't have the bandwidth to do her own social media and the band stuff.
Right.
And I'm the same. I don't have the bandwidth to do all the stuff for Greenwave Productions and all the stuff for the band. So we've got a guy doing our social media.
You got to delegate.
In fact, he's coming here. He's coming here tomorrow. We're doing some recording tomorrow, some bands, some bass guitar. I'm actually meeting our bassist tomorrow.
First time?
First time meeting him. Yeah. We got a social media guy before we've got bandmates.
Okay, we're back. Right, so bit of technical issue there. So we're not going to keep everybody waiting too long. You've already had an hour off, so we're waffling away. So yes. So we're just going to end the podcast there. Basically, to reiterate what we're doing, we're here to help and support people. So to tune in to future episodes, you can reach us at, over to you, Pete,
at www.greenwaveproductions.co.uk. And wherever you find your podcasts.
Yes, wherever you find your podcasts, okay? We will be there eventually, but by the time you've heard this episode, we've ironed out all the kinks and all the issues, and there will be links available everywhere. So if you know Pete and you know me, the links will be available. We aim to try and do this podcast every fortnight, and if not, it'll be once a month, but the aim is once a fortnight to give you nice regular content, which both of us are very fond of indeed.
Yes, definitely.
Okay then, so anything to add, Pete, before we go?
No more shameless plugs, do you mean?
We've done all that. We'll have fancy intros and fancy more tickets and fancy more links as time goes on. Okay.
All the good stuff. But yeah, I just want to thank especially the early adopters of this podcast. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. We apologize for any technical issues we may have had.
It happens,
and they will be ironed out as we go. But thank you for listening, or watch if you're on the YouTube. That's how old people say YouTube. If you're old like us, if you're on the YouTube, thank you for watching and seeing our beautiful faces.
Yeah, we're not just pretty faces, and we don't have lovely voices. We can go out. We need to work on that one, Pete.
We will. We will
work on the growling.
It was a bit kind of.
It's apprehensive because we don't want to piss the laptop off at the end of the day. The laptop.
We do not, but such is life.
Okay.
So a big thank you for listening and watching us, and we will hopefully see you very, very soon. And be safe, be happy. That's what life's all about.
Indeed. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.
Thank you. Bye.
Bad Life Podcast!